Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Feels like it's been a while since I filmed a sit-down video, but today I wanted to talk about why I changed my ferret's food recently, a couple weeks ago, and just wanted to put it out there. This is not the surprise that I've been hinting at on my pages. You will not get to know what that is for a little while longer. Everything is finalized. That will be announced by the end of this month. Very excited. If not, maybe the beginning of October, we'll have to see. There is a dog outside of my apartment. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. Turns out the dog belonged to one of my neighbors. He's a very old dog. We were able to lasso him. I was scared because the main road is literally right there, and the poor guy was just so old and like frail and skittish. Anyways, happy ending. As I was saying, there are many methods of feeding the natural diet, fresh food diets for ferrets, and they each come with their own pros and cons. You've probably heard me mention them on the channel before. You know, there are various methods, you know, whole prey feeding, grinds, Frankenprey feeding, and today I wanted to discuss why I decided to switch from Frankenprey, which we've been doing for years now, over onto grinds, or a pre-made, which is what I will be referring to for this video, because in other countries a lot of people use the word grinds when referring to boneless meat, kind of like hamburger meat. So to avoid any confusion, I'm going to be using the word pre-made. Anyways, do not forget to hit the subscribe button, leave a like and a comment. We'd love to hear from you. But if you are new here, hi, my name is Bryn. I'm a certified pet nutritionist. I make videos here on YouTube. I also have a blog called The Pup and Polecat. I do have an obsession with all things ferret though, and that is my major focus on my platforms. For the past year or so, I have been feeding the style of Frankenprey Raw, meaning whole parts of the animal fed throughout the week, kind of like Frankenstein, that's where it comes from, to make a nutritionally adequate meal plan for my ferrets. And following the prey model ratio roughly of 80% meat, 10% bone, and 10% organs. I love this method of feeding, and it is great for many people out there. So the pros of Frankenprey feeding, the first one being can be inexpensive for a lot of people. I'm not going to say that's the rule, of course. A lot of the time it ends up being cheaper because you can generally source these ingredients in person rather than having to order online. You have total control over sourcing. It is great for jaw muscles and dental health. It encourages chewing action and cleaning the teeth as well. And you have the ability to fully control and customize the meal plan and the nutrients that you want to provide. It is very flexible, and it does kind of sound like you need to be an expert to feed this style of raw feeding, but that's not the case at all, as long as you have a basic grasp of what your ferrets require and you are continuing to do research as often as you can. Now, some of the cons for Frankenprey feeding is it can be difficult to feed a variety of bone and organs depending on your location. For example, it might be hard to source anything other than chicken and duck for raw meaty bone. It might be harder to find quails or pheasant bones or partridge in your area, and sources may be unreliable at times. I know for me, sourcing at the market, the meat market, it's very unreliable. Some items are more reliable than others, but things like rabbit and quail and wild duck were kind of hard to come by after a while. They had it every time, but then I must have bought it all out or something, because now they very rarely have those things. And another con that people have noticed with Frankenprey is that ferrets do tend to stash bigger pieces. I don't really find this to be a con personally, just because I like to encourage natural behaviors with my ferrets, but it is quite annoying for a lot of people who have carpet floors, who are not able to clean up their stash spots often. But you are able to make a DIY feeding den fairly easily. Like I said, I love being able to create custom meal plans for my ferrets for each season doing Frankenprey. Unfortunately, like I said, in the area that I live now, and due to Momo's allergies, which I'll talk more about in a little bit, I'm very limited to what I can source in my particular area, and it ended up being actually more expensive in the long run and unreliable. So I decided to change to feeding Premade Raw, which, if you've been following me for a while, you would know I actually fed this style of feeding for quite a bit, and I had a lot of fun with it. I ended up switching back to Frankenprey, but Premade Raw grinds, also as a lot of people call them, can be made at home or purchased. Some butchers actually sell pre-made raw and pet stores, specialty pet stores, but I actually prefer buying them online from reputable providers such as My Pet Carnivore. They are definitely my most favorite source of getting pre-made raw, and no, I am not sponsored by them. I do really like them because they have a lot of good variety for ferrets, especially for a ferret like Momo with a pretty unique allergy. I am able to feed things like beaver and muskrat, which are meats that I would not be able to obtain otherwise. But no pre-made is the same. You're gonna have some that are whole prey. It contains the entire animal, which My Pet Carnivore does sell quite a few of those. And then some places will also have pre-made that just follows the prey model ratio. So it just contains what they need pretty much and nothing more. And then you also have some that contain supplements or fruit and vegetables. So the pros and cons of most pre-made raw: better variety of parts and organs, especially if you're getting a whole prey or whole animal pre-made, because it does contain all of those organs that they would eat in the wild and all those parts and all those bones. They tend to be very palatable for many ferrets. It's actually a great method of switching ferrets onto raw, is using a pre-made, just because it's very palatable, it's high in moisture, it has all those good yumminess. It's very easy to add moisture to. I add water to all my ferrets' meals just by default, but with grinds it's very easy to add some water or some homemade bone broth in and mix it up to add some crucial moisture back into the food, even though it doesn't really need it, because as you know, raw diets are between 70 and 80% water, so they're very, very high in moisture naturally, but I like to just add that back into. And then they're also very, very convenient. It cuts back on my prep time by a lot, let me tell you, both when I actually prep and put all the food in the containers for the week, but also before feeding. I had used to cut the food to pieces before feeding, and it wasn't that inconvenient, don't get me wrong, but it does save on washing quite a bit of dishes and time just in general. The cons though: pre-made can be quite expensive, especially if you are ordering online and have to pay for shipping. For example, I think for My Pet Carnivore there's like a base shipping rate of like $30 or something like that, so that is quite expensive. And number two is a recent finding from me actually, but lately I have been finding whole pieces, like whole corn kernels, in mostly the duck grind from My Pet Carnivore. It never was an issue for me before when I had fed them in the past, so I don't know if something about their processing has changed, because a lot of the times if you purchase whole animals from the store or the market or whatever, you may find bits of their food in their neck or their stomach area. It's not too uncommon, especially when I buy pigeons. Whole pigeons will sometimes have a whole corn kernel or two in their neck. It sounds really disgusting, but there was one time I didn't notice it and the ferrets actually left it behind in their plate, so they don't seem to eat it. Patsu was knocking stuff off of my desk. Yes, you were. Yes, you were. I know you guys have to be fed in a second, huh? He's like, you're talking about feeding me and you're not feeding me. So I have found quite a few actually in each tub of duck rind, which it's kind of unfortunate that you have to sift through and take them out, but they are pretty easy to remove because it's like bright yellow pieces of corn. I haven't had too much of an issue removing them. It's just the fact that they're there is a little inconvenient. I like to go through the grind anyways to just make sure everything's okay, all the bone pieces are good, etc. So it's not too big of a deal for me. It's just something that I've noticed recently. The next one is you may need to brush their teeth or add meals of meaty bone to help keep their teeth clean, encourage jaw action. I like to add kind of like a side dish to their meals when they finish their pre-made pretty quickly, just to encourage that action and to give them a little bit more variety. Also, in the past, I used to have issues with them having runny stools on pre-made. This time they've all been very consistent. Poos have been very small and formed and just perfect poops. So I haven't had that problem this time around. I don't know, because something's changed in the processing or what's in the grind, the bone content in the grind, I don't know. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Momo's allergies. I know I have an entire video on this on my channel, but if you haven't seen that video, Momo is allergic to most hoofed animals. It is a very, very rare, unique allergy. I've never heard of anything like this before. And so this includes animals like cow, deer, lamb, goat. Pigs are the exception, even though they technically have hoofed feet. So sourcing everything in person for a Frankenprey style diet is really difficult, especially in my area where we have a lot of farmlands, but most people just farm cattle and sheep. It's difficult for me to get things like rabbit and pheasant and, you know, stuff like that. And the market, as I mentioned before, that I had frequented almost every week for my animals just stopped carrying rabbit, stopped carrying quail, stopped carrying wild duck. So all they had was chicken and pork ingredients. It was just really difficult for me to find enough variety for the ferrets because I don't want to have Momo on a totally separate diet from everyone else. I want her to be able to eat what the others are eating. So now on Premade Raw, she and the other ferrets are able to enjoy things like muskrat and beaver, duck, chicken, pork, rabbit, whitefish. Like, there's just all of these options that she can actually eat. Like, and muskrat is very close to what they would be eating in the wild. And these muskrat and beaver, they're not factory farmed, you know, these are from the wild. So it gives them a variety of nutrients of great quality too. As you can see in the beaver and muskrat grinds, it's just like really deep, rich red. The only pre-made that they haven't liked since switching is pork. All of them just do not like the pork pre-made for whatever reason. They used to like it a lot, if I'm remembering correctly, but now they don't like it at all. We know that the base prey model is imperfect. We know in the wild the polecat would eat a variety of glandular organs, different bone pieces, feet, heads, eyeballs. In Frankenprey, you could follow that base guideline of 80-10-10 while only feeding legs and wings every week and beef kidney for their 5% other secreting organ requirements, or only chicken liver. It's hard to actually give them the variety that they would get in the wild. Some other companies that offer Premade Raw would be Raw Feeding Miami. I've tried theirs in the past, and the ferrets have also liked their pre-made. And then Hair Today, which my ferrets have also tried and have loved in the past. However, a lot of their Premade Raw are considered unbalanced, and you either need to add stuff in or eat as just a treat. There are a couple things that you can add to pre-made if you would like to. Keep in mind that whole animal, whole prey pre-made doesn't really need that much added back into it. First one being taurine, and you can do this via heart meat, tongue meat, or just like the powdered taurine, because grinding meat does deplete taurine. Now the rest of the meat is going to have taurine. If you're only feeding a raw food diet, your ferrets, your animals are likely getting enough taurine. However, some people do choose to supplement it back in just in case. The second one being eggs. Not into the pre-made itself, I suggest serving it separately because it does spoil food a lot faster. But eggs are of course a great addition to every diet and also helps work as a natural hairball preventative. Most companies are still using non-wild caught animals in their pre-made, so it's wise to keep adding fish into the diet to help balance fatty acids and other nutrients. I use the whitefish pre-made by My Pet Carnivore, and the ferrets really love it. And then of course shellfish like blue or green lip mussels, never hurts to add in those trace nutrients, fatty acids. It is a very healthful addition into the diet of the ferret and can be done very easily. And then you have medicinal mushrooms. I've talked about a lot on my channel. I have a lot of resources on my ferret care database when it comes to medicinal mushrooms, and it's something that I feed my ferrets on occasion as well. Antioxidants like vitamin E. A lot of raw diets tend to be naturally deficient in vitamin E unless you are sourcing wild-caught animal. More bone as needed if your ferrets are not having consistent stools on Premade Raw. And then tripe is always a great addition. No matter what form of raw food you feed, you are still making an amazing healthy choice for your ferrets that supports them in every way possible. I also think it's great to mix and match and try new things. See if your ferret will eat a whole prey mouse one day, if your ferret will eat lamb heart the next. It is great to provide that variety and enrichment for them, as long as it doesn't set off the amount of nutrients that they require and that they should be getting in their base diet. That is the end of my video. I hope you guys learned a thing or two and enjoyed my discussion on why I switched my ferrets back onto pre-made. I'm not saying that you need to do that. Frankenprey is still an absolutely wonderful choice for many ferret parents. It just ended up to be a better deal for my ferrets to be switched back onto pre-made, mostly because of Momo. So, but anyways, I wanted to mention I am running a discount on my merch store. If you use the code POTSU, you can get 10% off of any item on my merch store, and that also includes my brand new book, Feeding Ferrets Naturally. So take advantage of that. I'm not sure when my next sale is going to be, probably won't be for a while. That will expire expire on October 1st, so make sure you take advantage of that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do not forget to subscribe, and I will see you. Oh, we have another ferret here. Whoa, Momo. Say hi, Momo. And I'll see you guys in our next video. Bye. Bye.